Welcome everyone that's coming in today. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you very much for joining us today for what will definitely be an important and informative session, exploring a new framework from the Cyber Future Foundation on responsible, secure AI of the future, or as we like to call it, RSAFE, and a new training and certification program that's come out of partnership with AI CERTs. Today, we find ourselves coming to the close of 2025, another year marked by extraordinary progress in AI, development, implementation, and scale, with hundreds of billions of dollars being invested by the big players, fueling this progress. And at the same time, we're all continuing to experience hallucinations, the scale of deep fakes in all of our social media, and this is really limiting our ability to trust and feel secure to adopt and scale some of these systems. At the same time, today, we have top tech leaders issuing warnings and concerns. This week, I just saw a headline from Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, suggesting that AI is the most profound technology humanity has ever worked on, and will probably have to work through some societal disruption, kind of like throwing his hands up to how big an impact it's going to have on everything. And in the US, regulatory is not only lagging, but we're actually kind of stepping aside and fueling the acceleration of innovation, largely in order to sort of keep ahead of the competition of China and others. And so where does the burden of responsibility lie for alignment and safety? And I think it ends up lying on us as individuals, but also, fortunately, with organizations like Cyber Future Foundation and AI CERTs, who we get to hear from today, and they are showing us ways to sort of guide to a safe and more secure future. So for this discussion today, we've got a great group of people to discuss the origins of this new framework, as well as its importance and applications. I'm Rob Nail. I am moderating the discussion today, and I'm an advisor for AI CERTs. I'm also the associate founder and one of the former CEO of Singularity University, and work and consult with a number of organizations on the implications of technology and developing visions and strategies for building the future that we want. With us today on this panel, we have Catherine Thompson, the COO of Cyber Future Foundation, Anupam Gupta, the lead architect and advisor for RSAFE at the Cyber Future Foundation. Himanshu Goyal is a global tech leader and the founder and CEO of Tech for Gov, we get to hear from. Gordon Pelos, the EVP of Partnerships and Enterprise Strategy at AI CERTs, as well as Utkarsh Sharma, the SME Manager at AI CERTs. Before we jump in, I just want to remind everyone today to please feel free to fully engage, add and post your questions and comments to the chat. We will have time for Q&A at the end of this, so would love this to be as interactive as possible. So let's get started with Catherine. Catherine, can you tell us a little bit about Cyber Future Foundation and what you do?
Yes, thanks, Rob. Cyber Future Foundation is now in its 10th year. We just recently celebrated our 10th anniversary. CFF was founded 10 years ago, which is kind of a hard concept for many to fathom, 10 years ago, under one simple principle, which was to connect security leaders with the C-suite and the board. Because 10 years ago, there was still a lot of misconception, a lack of understanding of what cyber truly was. So the goal was to educate and to get security leaders in front of the executive. Now, fast forward to today, and you're very hard-pressed to see a security leader who's not in the forefront of those discussions almost on a daily basis. For CFF, we have kind of, as we have gone along the 10-year journey, we've also advanced our focus in terms of how we engage with our community. We're in 44 different countries, over 10,000 members. We're an interesting kind of dissection of about 50% of our community membership are organizational leaders that don't necessarily have day-to-day responsibilities for cyber, but have an overarching interest, concern around where the threat landscape and what is impacting that. The other side are our practitioners, CIOs, CISOs. What we've also been doing, or what we've heard from our community, especially over the last 2 years, is we've slowly transitioned from being the traditional think tank where we discuss these issues to more tackling these issues. So those folks that are joining us today, and thank you for taking time to join us. You'll see on the screen kind of 6 icons, and these 6 icons represent the programs and projects that we are singularly focused on. Project Gateway, which is our workforce initiative, which has been longstanding. We're committed to building a more scalable, diverse workforce globally in cybersecurity. Project Indigo, which is our humanitarian work, and we've been doing this work since for the last 5 years, since or even longer since the Afghan conflict, and we're now actively involved in other initiatives. Our professional association of CISOs, we call it PAC, which is for actually bringing accreditation, global accreditation to the profession of CISO. Our cyber board book, which was an initiative that was launched to give CISOs a handbook on how to manage relationships and communications at that board and C-suite level. Our healthcare COE, which is very focused on providing secure and attainable healthcare and ensuring, especially in rural environments, that security is at the forefront. And then we have responsible and secure AI for the future, which we're here to talk about today. This started out little, and Anupam, you can correct me here, a little over maybe a year and a half ago, and it was really a working group focused on providing security leaders with the opportunity to better understand how AI was going to impact their leadership and in their organization. It started out with a lot of discussion around research and training, quickly morphed into an incredible repository of best practices, which really lent itself to training. We were also hearing from our academic partners that that need for that type of training was desperately being sought after, because as we ask academia to prepare people for the future and future workers, they need the training to be able to do that. And AI, as we all know, is moving and advancing so quickly that it was required. Now, how our new model works within CFF is it's not, our community members have the opportunity not only to impact the topics or priorities that we set, but to deliver on those. So when we looked at that repository, our relationship for the last couple of years has been so strong with Gordon that we immediately reached out to Gordon and said, here's what we have. Is there an opportunity for AI CERTs to work with us to develop this curriculum? Because our community is saying it's something that's needed. So that kind of fostered the partnership and has developed into something that I think is ahead of its time in a lot of ways in the market, and is something that's deeply needed.
Amazing. And it's actually really great to see an organization like yours with such depth of knowledge to be able to so quickly put together a program in this partnership and get it to market. Looking forward to hearing more about how you did that. So let's turn over to Gordon. Gordon, can you tell us a little bit about AI CERTs?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. At AI CERTs, we believe organizations don't lack talent. They lack the right skills in the right roles. AI is reshaping every job. A real advantage comes from people who know how to use it safely and effectively. We're an AI native certification body with more than 60 role-based programs, all focused on practical capability. And we built everything on the belief that you don't need a degree to succeed. Targeted training and hands-on experience are what counts. So why is this job role-based training needed? AI has created uncertainty for workers and is a pressing need for companies to reskill with purpose. Most AI courses are generic or vendor-driven. We're different. We deliver role-specific, vendor-aligned pathways that take learners from entry level to mastery. And because everyone learns differently, our programs are available as e-learning or instructor-led through our global partner network. What we offer 3 certification tiers: 4-hour foundation micro certifications, 8-hour professional courses, or 40-hour technical tracks. Our pathways stack from practitioner to specialist through strategist and include complete learning materials, a web-based proctoring exam, a free retry, and a blockchain-issued digital credential. Our mission is simple: we equip today's workforce to thrive in an AI-enabled world. Today, we're highlighting our important work with Cyber Future Foundation and the Responsible Secure AI for the Future certification, and the soon-to-be-released Practitioner's Guide for RSAFE. I look forward to hearing more from Anupam and Himanshu shortly.
Thank you, Gordon. Catherine described a little bit about the origins here of this new framework, but let's turn to Anupam, the lead architect for the RSAIF framework. Anupam, can you just sort of describe what the gaps or risks that you see in the industry that sort of come together for this RSAIF framework?
Sure. Thanks, Rob, and thanks, Catherine, for setting some tone on where we started. So with AI comes great power, right, of doing a lot of things, but with great power always comes great responsibility. That's the foundation of building a responsible and secure AI for future foundation framework, right? So when AI started to turning, like AI has been around for decades, right? But it was not mainstream. When it became mainstream a couple of years ago, we started thinking about how this is going to shape the world, and it rapidly grew. So professionals, since we have other projects like Professional Association of CISOs, and we are deeply involved in the community, the discussion started that how do we make some best practices and guardrails around this and not make it like very specific so that it's good for one organization and not others. We wanted to create a baseline which anyone and everyone can practically use rather than just put there as a checklist, right? So this is where we start thinking about how we can come up with something which is foundational, not comprehensive in the sense it's not prescriptive, but it is baseline. These are the must-haves for any organization to think about, right? So we started with whatever the organizations are already doing, not thinking about AI, just like security foundations. So that is where we decided on these 7 domains. Every organization need to have, like they need to have a governance structure. They need to have risk management oversight, right? Which is paired with security, privacy, legal, and trust. Now, these 7 domains may not equally apply to all organizations. There is flexibility, and for some organizations, security is the core concern. For example, healthcare, right? For some organizations which are very risk management and governance driven, for example, finance, those domains may be more emphasis for them as compared to some others, right? Security being the core foundation of everything. So we started with this mindset of how we can create something which gives an equal balance of this, and organizations can use the foundation of these interlinking together. Then we evolved to the framework of mosaic methodology. Like these are the 7 domains, but how do we actually make them work together? So if we can go to the next slide. The mosaic framework is model outcomes, standard approaches, and integrated controls with a continuous improvement cycle. So model outcomes is basically to define what success looks like. What do we want to achieve? And once we know what do we want to achieve, we can work backwards from there and define the approaches of how do we go there. And then we think about the controls or the measures or the technical guardrails to establish in order to achieve that outcome following those approaches. So to achieve one outcome, there could be different approaches based on the organizational needs, based on the type of organization, those use cases, and same goes with integrated controls, right? You can deploy different type of tools because we have different type of vendors. So that is why we wanted to make this not specific to vendors, but more generic, more broader, so that any organization, regardless of what tools they are using, we provide the guidance on what you need to achieve, regardless of what tools and pathways you use, right? And there is a continuous improvement cycle to this, that in one step you cannot, like nobody can achieve perfection. And even if you do, the pace of AI is so high as compared to other technologies that by the time you wake up next morning, there will be something new and the context might change, right? So you always need to have a continuous improvement cycle. So that's the foundation of how mosaic based RSAFE framework works. Next slide, please. And then we have this grand schema of things in which how this is all linked together. how we use these mosaic framework technologies and approaches to work together. So we have 32 different approaches. These are different high-level strategic methodologies to guide organizations on what they want to implement. Then we have 63 unique components and 55 different outcomes. And with a combination of these, it's a pretty broad thing to be covered. Now we also established a self-assessment, right? So in order to go somewhere, you need to assess where you are currently. So we also developed a self-assessment maturity model where you can go do a self-assessment, adjust these parameters. So you can go to the rsafe.ai website and then take the self-assessment. It will ask you questions based on the domains you select are more important to you, and it will give you the baseline of where do you stand currently and what is the immediate next steps for you. And based on that, you can start thinking about how to use RSAFE in your day-to-day life. So that's the inception of RSAFE.
Wow. Okay, so you've got a high-level theoretical framework, a lot of practical implementations. This seems to be a very broad look at how this impacts the entire organizations. Who actually owns this framework and all of these different approaches? This seems like it's not just IT that has to own this. Who do you see benefiting the most from this kind of framework?
So this is intended to benefit the organization itself. It's not intended for one specific or like domain or like IT or like risk management, right? Like that people will have to work hand in hand in order to use this framework. Yes, IT can take a lead on this, or security can take a lead on this as being the foundation of it. But for example, if you need to have governance, you will have to work with HR, you will have to work with public policy, right? And you will have to work with your privacy organizations, you will have to work with legal, because with this type of use cases, you will also have a lot of regulatory scrutiny. Even though in US there are not many regulations, but most of global organizations are operating in different countries where they are heavily scrutinized, right? So with that, and like depending on the use case, what our organization have, they might have to be transparent to establish trust of how they are using customers' data, right? And they might have to provide privacy. So this is going to be a hand-in-hand framework, not specific to just one organization.
Perfect. So, and you just touched on regulatory issues. How does this framework map to other standards and regulatory frameworks like NIST or the EU standard that you mentioned?
Yeah, sure. Can we go to the next slide? So when we built RSAFE, we took in mind that, hey, we don't want to create, can we go to the next one? Yeah, this one. Thank you, Gordon. So when we established RSAFE, we wanted to create mostly a one-stop shop, because we knew that, yes, big organizations like NIST are working on establishing guidance of and best practices of what other organizations should be doing, right? But then there will be a lot of these frameworks will be coming. And as we see right now, they are evolving day by day. Like nations are doing at their level, states are doing at their level. These leading organizations are providing their frameworks. Some leading organizations in big tech are coming up with their own frameworks. So how does a smaller company deal with it, right? Or how does any normal day-to-day organization deal with it? Which one they want to go for and which one they want to start with? That then it becomes the case. And I think the president just recently posted about it that, hey, we have so many frameworks going on, we need to unify them, because when a company wants to innovate, they cannot chase doing 50 frameworks at once to get permission of operating, right? So we thought about it way earlier. And that is where we created RSAFE with the mindset of whatever are the baseline best practices. So what is the spirit of those controls where we want to go? And then we worked with these organizations in parallel to collaborate and see how we can create cross mappings, right? So for example, if you do the current RSAFE version 1.0, it has 150 unique components. You can simulate those to 150 unique controls, and we have 450 unique parameters on which you can implement those 150 controls. Now these are very well mapped to NIST AI RMF framework. So we have a cross mapping where if you implement RSAFE, you will achieve 85% of what is there in the NIST AI RMF. right? Which is a pretty good mapping. And we also provide you what 15% is not covered and why is it not covered. Those are extreme use cases or edge cases, which may not apply to all organizations, right? Similarly, for ISO, we have around 60 to 65% coverage. Now, one may ask why this is less than NIST. Because ISO is more prescriptive. They do not provide you like this is what you need to do. They leave a lot of decisions on based on organization needs, right? Based on organization policy. And RSAFE don't know what your organization policy is. So we have partial coverage to those controls, but we have very well documentation of what we have covered and what we have not covered, so that there is flexibility for organizations to adopt based on their use cases and based on their needs, right? And we are just starting on this evolution. As new frameworks come in, like EU AI Act came in, we immediately mapped RSAFE to that. And now we are working on what are the deltas. And if there are common themes which are coming across as like more technical controls, more AI related skills, small language models, and something which we may have not thought of in RSAFE, we will be working on to provide that an immediate update to RSAFE and provide that as a holistic approach of these are new technical controls which you can implement. But the basics of the 7 domain, the governance, oversight, risk management, trust, legal, privacy, and security, they are more than likely going to stay the same, because we want to build a must-haves foundation, because the nice to haves are going to be always changing depending on the organizational needs and use cases.
Great. I love that as part of the design here of the framework, you're thinking about the adaptability and keeping up with the changes that you're going to see. Let's talk a little bit about how this is showing up in this new course. You've co-developed this executive intro to RSAFE, and you've run an initial training program. How did that go? What was the initial takeaways and reactions from leaders who have taken the
the initial reaction was very positive, be it from the inaugural training or just discussing with different leaders in the industry, right? We started with the executive introduction because we believe it's pretty important to set the tone at the top, because leaders are the ones who are often the decision makers, right? And they are the ones who are in these strategic discussions of where an organization needs to go, what strategy they need to achieve. And they are the ones who are always asking, let's move to AI, let's move to AI, right? So they are the ones who should be setting the tone. So to introduce RSAFE to them, we did that, right? And we wanted to create a training program so that like these webinars are good, but somebody needs more in-depth knowledge. Like we discussed about these 150 components and like 450 parameters, but if I don't tell you that, you cannot use those, right? And what are those? Would be we need some type of training. We need some type of material where somebody can go and learn about those in depth, right? And then that would be setting the tone at the top. Then they need to implement those. So that will be implemented. So we are working with AI CERTs on the practitioner track as well. But for now, the executive track is out, and we wanted to have a platform which is more diverse, because executives are busy, and AI CERTs has this unique platform which provides multimodality, right? So you can read about the content if you want, you can watch videos, you can listen it as an audiobook or as podcast, whatever is your favorite form of learning, right? So that we are engaged with the audience and they get to learn whatever the platform they want to use at a single place.
Yeah, great. I think that platform is a great place to start with this content, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about the evolution of the program. But let's step back a little bit. Maybe we'll turn to Himanshu. Himanshu, you've got a lot of experience in the public sector, helping organizations and governments with AI-powered governance, digital transformation. From your experience working specifically with AI in government ecosystems, what are the major gaps or risks do you see in the industry, and how does this RSAFE framework uniquely address or fit?
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. So, first, quick introduction. I'm Himanshu Goel, I'm founder and CEO for a company called Ignatius. We have been working with public sector for over a decade now, and recently separated out a dedicated business unit for Tech for Gov, which is AI sprinkled on the existing solutions for government. And I spend most of my day building IGNA, that is Intelligent Governance for Next Gen Autonomy. During IGNA agents deployments, we have seen a huge gap to be precise, in local government, where everybody interested see the value in AI, but how to take steps forward so that have a meaningful impact while they are enabling the AI to the existing processes and workflows. And now here, Rob, I'm talking about more beyond chatbots, not really just building the RAG agents, but performing certain autonomous tasks and workflows automation. And that's where the gap is, that how the counties and cities want to move forward in AI, but how to ensure that all the AI policies are in place, how to ensure that guidelines set by NACO or the use cases defined by NACO are being implemented. So that's where RSAFE comes in, because we had tried NIST as well as ISO, and as what Anupam was mentioning, that some of these controls are not applicable. To be honest, there are certain regulations which require some of these controls. But what RSAFE does is that provide very detailed and implementation plan where you could do hand in hand training, and actually when you implement, these controls are pluggable, so you could see, and it's more of a continuous compliance, so you continue to get and receive. So I think from that perspective, RSAFE is helping a lot.
So are you saying it's more practical in its ability to be deployed? Are there specific issues that you see with the or opportunities with RSAFE for resource constrained teams? Is that an opportunity here?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Rob, if you see, AI is changing very fast, and there are a lot of various advancements which is happening, and on a very regular passion. So, to implement AI-enabled agents or building some of these automation framework, it's not just throwing out operating system upgrade or a laptop rollout. It's a change management. It requires certain policies and adherence to the processes which are in place, and that's where this pluggable framework for RSAFE can ensure that there is a privacy, there is a transparency and a responsible AI, so the data is being guarded well, and the executives and the top management gets the reports which they are seeking.
Great. Can you actually share any examples of real deployments that Tech for Gov is doing today with RSAFE?
Yeah, so we have these for a specific county in East Coast. We have done where we have defined these agentic RAG models, and which require underlying data to be exposed, and that exposure caused there has to be a framework around it while you are putting the data into these RAG agents, and that's where when we enabled RSAFE, we were able to, and as Anupam mentioned, there is a pre-assessment tool where you could actually assess first that what it entails to build these agents and connect with the data underneath. So that pre-assessment helped us to understand these controls and see where are the exposures, and rectify it even before it goes to the model. So choosing a model, that steps came later, but first the data needs to be secure and ensure that it follow a policy document around it.
Great. Yeah, and you touched on risk, trust, liability. Those are definitely the top things that most organizations are thinking about, but for sure, government teams have to understand as they're adopting AI. How does this framework, the RSA framework, help provide confidence or transparency with these organizations?
So there are certain controls when you start, so the first you do an assessment, you get to see that what are these controls and how data is being exposed. Along with that, how the human oversight would be helpful. And it is again with AI, it is good to get certain automations in place, have AI assist you in your workplace, but at the same time, human oversight is essential. And this is where the risk gets lowered when you are utilizing a framework like RSAFE, because then you can perform the regulation and do the risk analysis assessment prior to implementation. So that's where, and RSAFE has certain where you could actually compare the solutions out there in terms of other different models and these agentic systems, that if you adopt off the shelf, what are the things which you need to take care of. So that comparison, that policy making makes it so much more easier. And the government in general builds the confidence while they move forward in this AI adoption journey.
Great. Looking forward, how do you imagine local governments using RSAFE for AI deployments or evaluation?
So I believe that public trust is one of the biggest hurdle. And now, while there are so many different models available, and there are broken processes, there are certain processes which require certain mundane tasks which needs to be done on a regular basis. So these are the opportunities which AI models can help improvise. But at the same time, just choosing a model is not the end of the solution here. You need to ensure that there is a certain framework while you're adopting these models, and you taking care of the rest of the testing, implementation, continuous compliance, ensuring that it stays where you could scale up later on when the AI adoption get increases. So for that, like even from a CIO to elected officials to citizen, this RSAFE framework helps to stay in control of the AI adoption. So I believe not just from a government perspective, but other regulated industries also would take a lot of advantage out of it. NIST has some good frameworks around built, but that is not something one size fit all. And there are certain controls which may not be required for certain industries. So I think from a government perspective and regulated industry perspective, RSAFE provides a lot of value, just as good as any other large language model or any other data sources.
I love that. And I think you hit on another opportunity here, which is as citizens, we should potentially utilize that framework too for conversations and to really discuss the risks that we're seeing more holistically. Thank you so much, Himanshu. So let's turn to Utkarsh. Utkarsh, let's talk about this new training course. The partnership here between Cyber Future Foundation and AI CERTs. You've launched this first course called the Executive Intro to RSAFE. Who's that intended for? And
yeah, so thank you very much, Rob. So as of now, as you can see over here, that on the slide also, that we have two tracks on the path, right? That for this particular RSAFE and AI certs track, right? The first track is Executive Introduction to RSAFE, right? That's the first one which we launched, right? And we launched it through a summit which was in Dallas. So Anupam was also there, and we saw a very huge attraction through there, and people was very interested and enthusiastic about learning more about that, right? That was the first track which we launched, which was apparently you can say introductory track, right? It was more about giving introduction about this entire platform, or you can say entire this framework, right? RSAFE framework which we are having, and how the alignment of AI technology along with this framework can help the leaders, the executive, to implement that and make sure their operations are safe and secure, right? Has already been discussed a lot that in this webinar only, that AI is there, right? And everyone is moving towards that, and everyone try to leverage the power of AI, right? As correctly said by Anupam, that with great power comes great responsibilities, right? So that's everyone have to understand, right? No one, there are, again, I will not say no one, but yes, the not everyone is looking towards that aspect, right? Using AI is okay, and as an organization wise, if you are implementing AI solutions, right, you have to be careful about the proper adoption throughout your industry, throughout your organization, right? For that, you take help, you need help of these kind of framework, just like RSAFE, right? To help you assess yourself, right? Where you stand as of now. right? So that's a lot of learning through this certification people can have. For us also, there was a lot of learning, that when we started working on this proposal of kicking off this certification tracks, which are aligned to totally bit of different, right? Which we do, right, in our role-based certification at AI CERTs. So we learn also a lot about these frameworks because this first track it's about giving people knowledge about these frameworks available, right? These other frameworks which are also available like NIST and all other frameworks, and how RSAFE stands about that, and how RSAFE is built on based of some of the frameworks, right? And how they can use it properly in their organization. That was something the core focus in this first track, right? People need to understand there is something exists. Okay, not only about RSAFE, but there is something they need to understand about governance, right? How they can secure their operation. There is kind of assessments available. And believe me, RSAFE is just very, it's very implementable, or it's very easy to implement also. It's not like that you have to again complicate your operations and implementation of AI in your organization and security frameworks, right? It is so easy to adapt and assess yourself with the help of the assessment available on the website. You can go to and check that, right? So it is so beautiful to have the organization's knowledge about the frameworks available, and RSAFE again, they pioneers into that, and they stand alone in all these frameworks. So again, that's very interesting. This pathway, the track one, which is an executive introduction, gives all the leaders about these idea about these platforms. And we don't want to stand over here, right? That was something like a sneak peek, which something is coming up. That is the next track, which is the practitioner toolkit, which is again a detailed toolkit, for a duration of 8 hours, where there will be actual implementation strategies in the form of hands-ons, in the form of practicals, right? At different levels, right? For example, you are a leader in an organization where you can implement some technical or coding-based solutions to implement the security frameworks like RSAFE, right? So there are the technical hands-on for you also. You might be in some other role that you don't want to take help of these coding or technology-based platforms. You want just a simple assessment, just a framework, a dashboard where you can fill in your data and check it at what level you are, how much secure you are, what level you are, either security or all those 7 aspects in which where you stand, right? How you can implement seamlessly in different organizations level of industry. That's what track 2 will be talking about, right? So that's again in discussion, pretty coming soon, that track, right? But again, we designed these certifications, these track 1 and track 2, keeping one view in our mind, that it is, again, as we discussed, that it is for the leaders, it is for the CISOs and all. But also, we are not barring the people who are having the very, very fundamental awareness about that, right? They can also go to these tracks like executive introduction to have an at least understanding, right? What they should learn if they are in future trying to implement and have their own startups, right? We are having so many founders over here in the webinar, right? If someone is going to launch their own entrepreneurship, right? Their own business. So they should be having awareness about that, right? What kind of framework they should adopt apart from all the operations they were thinking in their mind. So that's why the design is like that, that is catering to each and every level, right? From the foundational awareness to the and technical implementation expertise, right? And again, it is
Great.
mapped as per the RSAFE. So that's why it is applicable to all.
Yeah, and as Anupam sort of gave us the overview of the RSAFE platform, clearly there's a lot of depth that we can go into at future courses. I've gone through the RSAFE intro course, and I found that it is a great start, at least for communicating and to understand the basics here of the risk and security. And it left me wondering, okay, where's the practitioner? How do I get further into implementing and bringing this into the organization? However, something that Anupam said, there's 32 approaches within the RSAFE framework, 63 components and 55 outcomes. How long is this course supposed to take? Because I know how long it's taken me to go through the amount of resources and info that's there. About ballpark, what does the intro course look like?
Okay, so if we are
Utkarsh?
talking about
Yeah.
only the duration, right? The intro course is only of 4 hours of duration. Keeping in mind, Rob, that it was introduced through a platform where we have gathered all the CISOs and the executives and the leaders, right? Gathered to have a discussion about something which is coming up in the market, right? So that was the platform where we kicked off all this discussion. And also the first track, it is having again all the important things, but as the first pathway, right, as the first the level of the knowledge of all these platforms and frameworks, we don't want to keep it so much complex as people just fed up in the first level itself, right? We wanted to keep it so simple and easy and adaptable that people should have an awareness through this executive introduction and wants to learn more, right? That was the
Right.
idea,
Great.
to keep it up short and crisp of 4 hours duration.
Perfect. And one of the things that appeals to me most about the AI certs platform is the multimodality and how quickly the company seems to be updating information and staying up to pace with the changes in the market. Can you describe a little bit of how does AI certs keep up with AI and the pace of change that we're experiencing?
Exactly. So this certification itself is the answer what you are questioning, Rob, that we this is first of a kind, right? For us, for AI certs, right? The co-developed one, right? Gordon introduced us. Gordon is the pioneer, is the who started this whole conversation, right? With the discussion with Catherine and the team. Okay, so again, it was new for us, right? And we thought that when we thought about and heard about this concept, we thought that it is interesting, right? It is something we have not thought of, right? But it is there, it's the need of the market. So why not we should go that in that way? So we started developing and having this co-developed certification started and working closely with the CFF team, right? Anupam and us, we know that how much we connected on our we touch bases and discussed about the process and what are the technicalities and the peculiarities which we needed in this certification to give the learners all about the AI and this framework of RSAFE, right? So that is something, and we also do keep on changing our curriculum. We know that this era of AI, it's very fast evolving, right? Right, you wake up tomorrow, you will see that there might be the new versions of ChatGPT available. Okay, so that's all something we do. We know, we understand we are there are so much at stake and we have to adapt and evolve. So we have our quarterly update policies. We review our all certifications quarterly and update it. Okay, because that's needed, otherwise it becomes obsolete these days. The pace is very high, right? And it is again with the help of the experts from the industry, just like from RSAFE, we keep it aligned with the need.
That's great. Thank you so much, Utkarsh. So we're getting close to some Q&A questions. It looks like I've got one or two questions in here so far. Please do post a question that you might have. In the meantime, Gordon, if someone is interested in this course, do you want to sort of share where they go to learn more and to potentially register?
Sure. Let me pull up a slide that speaks to that. We have a QR code here that will take you to the registration link and the explanation of the course details, the modules, essentially the course blueprint. We also have a coupon code that will provide a 20% discount for anybody that's attending today. And this coupon code's valid until the end of the month. So we'd encourage anyone to download this using a QR code, or you can go directly to the store link, and that's here in on the screen as well.
Awesome.
A few other details. The course, as we mentioned, is a micro cert. It's 4 hours. It's different than a lot of our courses. It's the very first of a 4-hour certification that we've done. The course cost is $195 retail for anybody that's interested. As we mentioned, we have different types of modality. They're all included, and this includes the the certification, proctored exam, and the delivery of a digital credential via blockchain to your digital wallet.
Great. And obviously going into the end of year and holidays, the downtime is a great time to boost up learning and upskilling for ourselves. So this is a great opportunity there. Okay, so let's thank you all so much. That's a great overview. I'm excited to sort of be in the middle of this and to see this unfold. How about let's see. We have a couple questions that looks like it's coming in. One, Gordon, I think this one's for you. Well, can you give us a ballpark of what this course costs? Like, what's the overall cost of the course?
Like I said, $195 all in. There's
right.
no extras.
Yeah,
everything's included. Yeah.
Great. I was reading the next questions. There's a question about interoperability. I imagine maybe this is, it could be interoperability of the RSAIF framework in terms of the organization, or it could be the platform. So anyone want to take a stab at an answer? Maybe Anupam or Utkarsh?
Sure, I can answer that. So as I mentioned, RSAFE is technology agnostic, right? It asks you the foundation questions. It's not about what the tool, what the platform you use. And if you are talking in terms of how two systems are talking to each other in that interoperability perspective, right? It talks about the concepts rather than prescribing what you need to do. For example, if you are chasing an outcome of you need to protect input manipulation or you need to protect data poisoning type of attacks, what you need to do, it's going to focus on what prevents data poisoning attacks, right? Do you have logging and monitoring in place? Do you have API security in place? Do you have secrets management in place? Are you like validating your input and output data, how you are training your systems? Do you have a policy in place, right? So it starts building on those foundation. And when you go do the maturity assessment, it's going to assess where you stand. The first question would be, do you know what AI is? Do you know what AI governance is, right? Do you have a policy around it? If you don't, then that is the first step you need to do. So it's very systematic in that way, and it builds upon what you already have. And then it tells you what is the next step, right? So let's say you have a policy, but you have not implemented it. Then it's going to say, okay, then operationalize that policy, educate your people, educate your leaders around it, and then see where you are. Then you do another assessment to understand where you are currently and what next steps you need to take. So to answer that question, yes, it does address interoperability depending on your context and what outcomes you are chasing. There will be approaches for you to follow that, and RSAFE very well takes care of these things. That's the foundation we built it upon, that it should cater to everyone and all type of tools and platforms.
Right.
Yeah, Anupam, I think. Oh yeah, Himanshu, go please.
Sure. Yeah. So I would just add one thing that RSAFE enables for interoperability by using shared data standards. So you are having these open connectors which connects your new system with the old system. So you have these standards which you define through RSAFE. So interoperability is not really from connecting with these two between web services or API. It's the framework or the policy which you follow. It's an underlying prerequisite document that which allow you to connect in a very efficient way. So if you mean interoperability means connecting between new system to data to the old system or orchestrating existing modular agents, then yes, it is agnostic of the platform.
Great, super helpful. I'm curious, Anupam, you kind of touched on this a second ago. As the world evolves and things change and regulatory shifts, what are the mechanisms that are sort of built into RSAFE for adapting to these emerging risks? What is there a structure, or how should we expect to see that?
So Cyber Future Foundation is a community-driven organization, right? So we do our own research in terms of what's coming up, in terms of what new technologies are there, new frameworks are there. We closely monitor those, and then we work with leaders to also see what real-life challenges they are facing, right, at the ground level. It's not just reactive. We do a very proactive approach. We try to anticipate what things are coming up. We follow different conferences, we follow different research papers that come out to see what is coming up, and then what we can build if there is something that we can foundationally solve, then we will do that. But if there is something that requires a very specific solution, we may not go into that direction because we are not experts in all industries. RSAFE is meant to provide you the must-haves, right? The nice-to-haves, we will provide you guidance on which direction you need to look at, but then that is something that the organizations will need to cater a little bit on their own. We are here to help. For example, our maturity assessment, right? That provides right now 450 unique parameters because we just have 150 components right now. We are trying to expand that. We are trying to make it more adaptive. So as those components grow, those maturity assessment parameters will also grow. Some may become obsolete, so we will replace them. So this provides a continuous improvement cycle in terms of gathering feedback from the users of RSAFE in terms of something that is working for them, something that is not working for them, or they see a lack of something which we might have missed, right? Like, so because the technology is evolving, there could be some unique combination of things which RSAFE does not cater for right now. But we have feedback mechanisms to incorporate those, learn from it, and then evolve the framework itself.
That's great. I love and think this is a great example of how you leverage a community to keep the pace, right? So this partnerships kind of come out of that principle of valuing the ecosystem and partners. I just wanted to note, I think the assessment, the maturity assessment you mentioned is actually live on the website too, right? That's something that people
Correct.
can see live today. Yeah, great.
Yes.
All right, so let's see. Other questions? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so the maturity assessment, the
Anupam, do you want to make
community
a
version of the maturity assessment is live. It have 75 parameters, not the entire 450 parameters. So that's good to start with, right? And we wanted to give a teaser to the community so that they can start with like the most foundational things. It starts with the basics. But if you feel that is something that organization it can relate to, it is valuable to them, then they can reach out with our contacts mentioned on the rsafe.ai website, and we can help them plug in with the much more in-depth assessment.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. One question that came up here, I think Gordon actually posted through, was how does RSAFE apply to other verticals like healthcare? I mean, maybe this is something, Himanshu, if you got a comment on how organizations and other verticals might apply it, or Anupam?
Sure, I can provide some context and then Himanshu may probably can add on that, right? So as I mentioned,
Yeah, great.
this is outcome driven. This is outcome driven. So it does not matter which industry you operate in. For example, if you are in healthcare, what are the most important things for you? You need to have security and you need to have privacy, right? Those are the two foundational ones. So you will focus more on those two aspects. When you do the maturity assessment, you will say, I work in healthcare. It's going to highlight that these two are critical for you. You can adjust those. That's like provides you that full flexibility. And then based on like your healthcare needs, it's going to suggest you these are controls which you should first look at, right? These are the components you should first target. So it provides that type of context. And if we specifically talk about like healthcare, right, as Catherine was giving the introduction, one of the core initiative that we have is in healthcare domain. So we work with healthcare folks, and then they are using RSAFE as well. So we have healthcare use cases, and if there is a specific question, I can answer that. But in general, it's industry agnostic. But we work closely with our healthcare as well because that's part of CFF umbrella.
Yeah,
Great.
exactly.
And I imagine that. Yeah, go ahead, Himanshu, please.
No, sorry. So I was just saying, Anupam, you rightly mentioned about it that the controls exist. Now it's as a part of any regulated industry, like if even for public service, now we have certain information which needs to be redacted, or there is a certain guidelines we have to work with how the data exposure happens. That assessment happens with RSAFE. In a similar way, you could do for the healthcare industry as well, where there are certain HIPAA compliance controls which are required to be implemented, or you would like to ensure that there is no PII information being shared. So some of those controls are in place, and as you go through the initial assessment, which is available on the website now, helps us already to get started. And you will see some of those controls coming in that assessment as well.
Amazing. That's great. I don't see any other questions at the moment. I thought maybe, Gordon, you want to highlight any other courses and opportunities that AI certs have the other certifications that people can look forward to today and in the future from AI certs?
Sure, Rob. One of the most valuable, I think, courses for people is our foundations course, which is very broad, but it's intended as an introduction to AI. It's a 4-hour micro certification and it's free. And so, I'd encourage my mother to take this course because a lot of people need that foundational understanding of AI, and this gives it to them. It's a micro cert. It takes the user through our entire experience from registration through to the issuance of a digital credential at the end. And so if somebody wants to try our product, it's a great place to start. On top of that, we have a group of essentials courses. We have our professional courses and our technical courses. The essentials are things like AI executive, ethics, AI ethics. In our professional courses, we have things like marketing, AI sales, AI marketing, AI legal, AI healthcare, and then we stack on top of healthcare, AI nurse, AI doctor, AI medical administrator. So there's a stacking from entry level through to mastery. We have courses in telecom. We have courses AI application. And one of the things I want to remind people of, we don't teach a nurse how to be a nurse. We teach a nurse how to use AI to be more efficient and more effective. And that point is, a lot of people say, hey, this is job role based training. It's not teaching them a profession. It's teaching them how to apply these skills to their profession.
Amazing. Thank you, Gordon. And thank you to our whole panel here. This was a great and illuminating discussion. I think this is a very exciting and very important new program, this executive intro for RSAFE, this framework. I don't think it's just for cybersecurity professionals or for the IT professionals. I found a lot of value from it. I think every exec should actually go through this program. I don't know if I would have my mother take this course just yet, but absolutely everyone in the organization I would. However, the foundations courses, I think it is important for everyone to get educated, have a baseline literacy so that we're participating in this fast-paced shift and change in our world around us. So thank you all for participating, and we look forward to more future courses, certifications, and exciting frameworks from these incredible organizations. Thank you all.